It's Meet Me in the Middle, and we're so glad to be back. Lindsay Pollard, my co-host, wherever she is, that I'm trying to point to.
I'm over here.
We have been MIA for a minute or two, and so first of all, we're just so thankful to be back. Both of us have had some wild rides in our lives in the lives of our family, and God has just continued to sustain us and carry us through. But today I am so excited to have one of my dear friends and my neighbor, Penney Zimmerman, aka Patricia Zimmerman, which I didn't even know the Patricia part for the longest. Okay. But Raj and I, when we first moved into the neighborhood, it was almost 10 years ago. And I got to know her pretty soon after when she brought me a chocolate cobbler. And I thought, hallelujah, I have died and gone to heaven.
What is that?
I know. She's going to have to make you one because it is some kind of amazing.
Wow.
Very addictive.
I've heard of a chocolate cobbler, but I'm telling you that thing was, and she made me another one just not too long ago. And so I called her for the longest. I called her the cake lady because she loves to bake. She bakes cakes and cookies, and every Christmas she brings us this beautiful platter of all kind of little goodies that we just eat on for a while. We graze over, But this is just a cool story that I think everybody should hear. And so I'm just going to start in with you, Penney, and then Lindsay and I both will be asking you all kind of questions. But Penney has something that is just kind of burning on her heart to share. And it's really Lindsay and I, it's our privilege to be able to have this moment, to just, get to hear her story and get to be a part of sharing her story out. Some of this for the very first time ever to the public audience.
Ever.
So Penney, you have some stuff on your heart that is just so, I don't know how else to say it. It's just burning on your heart. Talk about what you wanted to talk about first. And you said, well, I got to talk about this first. So let's start there. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, I've never done this before. And for most of you people that, or anyone that knows me, knows that I'm very private, very reserved. I'm not very active out in public or all that, but I have my reasons that people don't understand because I've never explained before. As of November 18th, I had what most people call an emergency surgery, but it was an urgent one for a past problem. I was down in a comatose state for 7 days, but when I first woke up from this, during it, I wanted to die, but when I first came awake, I noticed there was something different about my life. I had lost 34 pounds. I was very light. My heart, even my family said I was so emotional and everything, which is very unusual for me because I'm very reserved, like I said, very private, very non-affectionate kind of person because that's the way I was brought up. But all of a sudden, I was telling people I loved them and it was great to be alive, and which is very unusual for me. But evidently, during this 7 days, something went on in my life that to this day, I don't know what happened. But ever since then, I've been a totally different person, lighter, more easygoing, more get out there, more caring about people. I'll go to a store and somebody will look for change and I'll try to help them. And it's like I'm a totally different person now. There's only one.
I got to ask one question. So you said November 18th. First of all, that's my birthday. So I thought
I'm sorry.
But I mean, did this just, you're talking about November 18th of 2021?
Yes. This past year. Yes. Okay. It was a total emergency kind of thing that I had
to keep going.
Face. To give a little bit of my history, why that's so important and why all this is, because 17 years ago in 2005, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it's anyway, but I went through all the surgery and everything, and I kind of gave up and went into hiding to fight. I had to have chemo and surgery and all the treatments, which I'll talk about more in detail later. But right now, I just wanted to give you like a past history so you'll know why this is so important. So over the last 17 years, I've lived in a small neighborhood, and the Lord would put people in my life. And it was kind of aggravating because I believed in the Lord all my life. I always have. I always thanked him and I prayed to him and all that. But I never thought I was worthy of him coming into my life and making my life better. And then especially after 2 failed marriages and, then finally starting over twice. And the third time was after I had breast cancer. And I said, this is it. I quit. I thought that's what I meant, but I actually went into hiding to fight and do my chemo and all that. I was single and alone all these years. But to fight chemo, a friend told me once, she said, you didn't quit, Penny. If you'd have quit, you'd be dead. I said, no, he won't let me do that. I've wanted to do that for years, but every time something big happened, he was always there. And I look back, and since this last episode, why it was so important was after the last episode, he started putting me through, I guess it started about a week after I finally came to my senses. He started reminding me of all the things he had done for me in the last 22 years. We had to go back, and do you know how painful it is, people, to go back through all your most painful times, all those times when you were so sick and you were in so much pain, and for him to say, see, I helped you get through that.
Mercy.
Now, I put this person in your life. Do you remember this person? And at the time I didn't, but then he brought me all the way through all this. And that's what I've been doing since November, is going through all this. And each time I get lighter, and I realize more and more how much he has actually, what I thought was me was not me at all.
Yeah.
And every time I would need something, say food, or when I wrecked my car and I couldn't think of how I was going to get another, this is a big one, how I was going to get another car, he got all the people that I'd helped and that I clean house for and do all this stuff for, my friends and stuff. He got them together. They took up a fund. They bought me a car. And I call it Bessie. She's blessed. I said, the Lord gave you to me, and I'm going to drive you until the wheels fall off.
That's right.
She's very old. She's 25 years old, but she runs like a top.
Yeah.
I mean, things like that we don't realize. I want people to look at their lives sometimes, when, especially people like me that have been through so much in the last, I'd say 22 years, I've been through more than most people should ever go through, as far as pain and cancer. And I had a lot of complications from the chemotherapy, because I had a really good job, but I'm going to get that when it comes into something else I want to talk about. But just to look back through all this and realize what all he's done in my life, and all the times I tried to give up and say, Lord, just take me home. He'd say, no, I got something for you to do.
Yes.
So he would bring people to my door, literally, that either needed something, or like Joy and Roger came into my life, and they were good Christian people, and they were just so wonderful. I thought, there are still good people out there. And then he brought this organization that really changed things for me, called the Cornerstone Initiative, which Joy is familiar with. We have friends in it. And all these people started coming into my life. He'd say, it'd be like he's saying, you need to get back out there. It's almost like he had his hands on my back, pushing me out the door, because he'd want me to get involved in making cookies for, Joy knows all this too, but for cake for this person, cookies for that person, or somebody come and say, can you make me a carrot cake? Or, I'd get phone calls. It was like he would not let me do what I wanted. I wanted to be alone and fight my cancer and be sick and pain and all that. My sister would call and she'd say, you need to go have some fun or get out of the house. Or I said, no, because my immune system, I used every excuse there was during this time of, oh, my immune system's too low. People have germs, So I became a kind of germophobic. But, it's hard to explain how much. But going back now, I see he's been in my life for over 30, most of my life, because some people have easy lives, but they're not all good. Some people have tragic lives. Me, I've had a little of all of it. I held my mother in my arms as she died from lung cancer in 2000. I've lived in an abusive marriage, but everybody has a story. That's what I'm trying to tell people, and he just put it on my heart at this time to tell people my story because he knows I don't want to. And I still say, do I have to tell, about this? And he's, yeah, I can hear him in my heart saying, yes, and we went back through this stuff. And I think of all the people, which when I first was diagnosed with breast cancer, I had a wonderful job. I loved my job because I was always a workaholic. I've been working since I was 13. But I loved my job. I finally got a job that I'd worked for 20 years, educating I was self-taught, and I worked hard to do it. And I loved it. I worked at Huntsville Hospital. I was what we call a certified coding specialist. And I had to go through and get certified and take this big, awful test and everything. But I got to work it for 5 years before I was diagnosed. I had left a failed marriage. I had started over with $150 in my pocket, no car, no nothing. And I worked hard for 5 years to get this job and to get straightened out. And and for this, I got mad at God. And I know we've all been mad at God at lots of times. Why did you let this happen? How many times I can't start over anymore, Lord. I remember saying that when the day I was diagnosed with cancer was, I guess, out of all of the tragedy in my life, was the most devastating day of my life. That commercial, everybody's seen that commercial that says time stops and you're sitting there and everybody keeps going around. It's true. But
Penny, how did you find out that you had cancer?
Okay. That's really not. I was at work. It was I can tell you the exact minute. I was at work on February 5th, 2005. It was 5:00 on a Friday evening. I was putting my desk together to go home. And I was very tired. I remember that. And I got a phone call at my desk. So I thought, nah, just leave it. It can't be that important on a Friday afternoon at 5:00. Everybody was gone but me. So I picked up the phone and I'd had a biopsy. I'd felt a lump. I'd had a lump for a couple of years, which I'd been diagnosed with fibrocystic breast disease, which, is lumps in your breast. Most people know that. So I just put it off to that. And please, people, don't put lumps off. Go have them checked, please. But I went and had a biopsy, forgot about it, figured it was going to come back another fibrocystic because I'd had it before. So when I got this phone call and he said, this is Dr. So-and-so, I thought, okay, this is him going to tell me I got fibrocystic, which I know I already have. He says, Miss Zimmerman, he says, I hate to tell you, but your biopsy, you have cancer. And I must have let out a little scream or yep, because time stopped and all that, like they said. And it must have been so loud that my boss came running from her office. And I sat down, and I sat there and I thought, oh, I'm dead. That's it's weird how you think you're dead. I'm dead. I have cancer, but
you think
it was awful. It's so, for anybody that's been diagnosed with any kind of cancer, it's devastating. That's the only word I know to use.
Yeah. So, and for you all listening, we're going to go into a whole segment in a minute about just that period of her life. But I wanted to go back and grab something else here. You, like your background, like let's say spiritually and all that kind of stuff. I know you said you've known, and I love your name for God. You'll have to share that. But what was your background spiritually? kind of where was that? And obviously this November 18th thing and this 7 days, which is kind of interesting. 7 is a very big number in the Bible, and that you
I
were
didn't know that.
you were in some kind of comatose state. I mean, it reminds me of this story in the Bible of Saul, and saw this bright light, and was blind for a little bit, and, became Paul and a major follower of Jesus, and all this kind of, God just radically changed his life. It's like you had that kind of thing.
Yes.
So where were you spiritually before? Because I know when I would talk to you, you had always been, I knew you always believed in God, but what was before?
Well, my parents were, I guess you would call them, I don't know, they were poor people. But my mom, when I was little, we went to church, and we lived way out in the desert. So we'd go to this little church. And I remember, I can tell you my first preacher's name, even now, but I couldn't tell you anything after that as far as names. But he was so awesome. His name was Highbaker. His last name was Reverend Highbaker. And we lived in the desert. But yes, my mother taught Sunday school. My father he was not a big churchgoer. And my mom eventually, neither one was. But they were good people. I mean, we lived by the golden rule, My dad always said that every night before we went to bed, he'd say, you remember this. He said, you remember to treat people like you want to be treated, And he taught us about religion, and, we made sure we went to Sunday school classes and stuff. As I got older, you kind of got away from all that. And I became a teenager and went through like everybody else. But I always believed in God. But I never believed I was ever good enough that all the things I heard about and read about. And I never read the Bible the whole Bible, until after I got breast cancer, which is what I'm going to get into in a little bit too, about when I start talking about the breast cancer. But November 18th, the 7 days I was out of it, I could talk. My sister said I could answer a question if she asked me, but I remember nothing about that 7 days. I don't know where I was or what, but I wasn't here. I know that for a fact. And it's not the first time that that's happened to me. And I'll get into some of that when I start talking about the breast cancer, about some of the things that I've been through that have been really, now that I've went back, I think, oh boy, it's like a light bulb goes off in your brain when you start going back through stuff, and he helps you see things that you didn't, because you're so busy into being sick and the pain, that you don't see all this stuff going on around you. You're more, what do they call that? One-sided, me-sided, selfish. Okay, let's just say it. I was selfish.
Let's just
I can admit that now.
Yeah.
But am I ready now? I don't know when.
Yeah. I mean, Lindsay, you have any more questions on this segment?
Did I miss something?
No. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to close this out. And our second segment, we're going to go into that. So we will see you all shortly. We're just going to take a quick break, and we will see you shortly to go into segment 2 with Penney Zimmerman.